August 15th, 2023 meeting of the Plan and Design Commission. Mr. Fontaine, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Mantis.
Present.
Commissioner Bruckman.
Present.
Commissioner Kirsch.
Present.
Commissioner Hecht.
Here.
Vice Chair Moore.
Here.
Chairman Hainsfeather.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr.
Thank
Chairman.
you. Please note for the record that Councilperson Lidauer is with us, as well as Student Representative Roberts. Okay. On tonight's agenda, we have approval of two sets of minutes from June 6th and June 20th, which were our last two meetings. And then we have two public hearings, one for an amendment for a special use to a planned development at 54 Laurel Avenue, and one for a public hearing for a special use permit in the nature of planned development and special use permit to establish a motor vehicle washing facility at 1971st Street, which most people would know as Lake Car Wash. If you were here for another matter, because I understood that at a community meeting, it was mentioned that perhaps the Solo Cup property would be on tonight's agenda. That will be the subject of a special meeting next Tuesday night at 7 o'clock at the Highland Park Country Club. So if you're here for that, you're welcome to leave at your convenience. All right, with that, I'd like to call consideration of Plan and Design Commission minutes for the regular meeting of June 6, 2023. Any comments or corrections? No? Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Hecht. Do I have a second?
Seconded.
Second by Commissioner Mantis. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
One abstention.
One abstention. Noted. Thank you, Commissioner Kirsch. And I assume you're going to abstain from the next one as well, so, because you were on your world tour
World tour of
California colleges.
Yeah.
All right, next item of business is consideration of Plan and Design Commission minutes for the regular meeting of June 20th, 2023. Any additions or corrections to that? Seeing none, can I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Hecht, second by?
So moved, seconded.
Seconded by Vice Chair Moore. It's been a long time. All in favor, any other comments? No. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Abstention.
One abstention, so ayes have it. All right, our first item of scheduled business is a public hearing number 2023-PUD-002 for an amendment to a special use permit in the nature of a planned development to construct additions and exterior changes to an existing single-family dwelling with zoning variations to bulk and steep slope zone requirements at 54 Laurel Avenue. So, welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Plan and Design Commission. My name is Walter Hainsfeather. A quorum of the Plan and Design Commission being present, the members of the Plan and Design Commission will now introduce themselves for the record from my right, starting with Commissioner Bruckman.
Marissa Bruckman.
Adam Hecht.
Karen Moore.
Steve Kirch.
Danny Mantis.
The Plan and Design Commission is charged with hearing applications for rezonings, plan developments, and subdivisions under the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations of the City of Highland Park. In all matters, we recommend to the City Council based on the testimony presented to us in the hearing. We are required to decide cases within 45 days after receipt of the transcript, and all testimony will be under oath. Both applicants and others who wish to speak on a particular case should present specific evidence as to why a proposal meets or fails to meet the standards of relief requested. For clarity of our record, only one person at a time will speak, and all questions will be directed through the chair. We ask that you make every effort not to be repetitive in your testimony. And finally, we will make every effort to adhere to the schedule prepared. For tonight's hearing, if additional time is needed on a matter, it will be continued until the next available agenda. And with that, I open the floor for the staff of the Plan and Design Commission to read into the record proof of publication and ownership.
Proof of publication and ownership are available for viewing at the Offices of Community Development, 1150 Half Day Road in Highland Park.
Thank you, Mr. Fontaine. Mr. Burhop, are you going to be making the presentation this evening?
Yes, sir.
Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Thank you, Chair. My name is Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park in the Community Development Department in the Planning Division. This presentation is for an amendment to a PUD for additions with variations for the property at 54 Laurel Avenue. This is the subject site. It was subject to a PUD and re-subdivision application by the city last fall in September. The Plan and Design Commission considered this in September, as did the City Council, and I have the link to that in my packet. So the current use of the property, or the proposed use in any event, is going to be a single-family home. The proposal is for additions and exterior improvements to that home. Variations are requested as part of this proposal. So originally, the city, who was the applicant, proposed this re-subdivision, and that was approved. So this property was re-subdivided with the city retaining Lot 2, the larger lot to the right, which would be along the lake. And Lot 1 was the smaller lot with the former senior center, which is now a home or will be a home. And so those lot lines were created by the city, not the current applicant. And any variations to a PUD trigger a PUD amendment. So the applicant is proposing additions onto their home that need variations to bulk and steep slope zone requirements. Because that's a variation, staff does not have the administrative authority to approve that, has to be a PUD amendment. New plans. So the yellow there is the existing footprint. The blue shade is new footprint, with one thing I want to point out. Technically, this is a change. If you can see my mouse, it's on the right side or the east side facing the lake. That's a change, but it's actually within an existing footprint. Actually, the footprint there has been reduced. It was in my report, something like 18 point odd feet, or the former setback was 15 and some feet, and it's now 18 and some feet. So the footprint is being reduced by approximately 3 some feet. Then the other additions are on the bottom left, which would be the southwest. So this is a proposed addition to the garage. And this is a proposed 1-story addition on the back. The red box is the buildable area that incorporates all the requirements. Normally at the Plan and Design Commission, we don't talk about the established building setback because that's a requirement in single family, but the front is the established building setback, and the abbreviation for that is EBS. So this new improvement here will encroach within the established building setback, a maximum of just under 4 feet. And then that's also a proposed change within the 40-foot steep slope setback, though it is within an existing footprint. It's a modification. There's a first floor screened-in porch, and the proposal is an open porch with a balcony on the road. The proposal down here will encroach within the steep slope zone, 63.4 square feet, of which a subset, 13.4 square feet, will be in the steep slope area. You will notice that the building is already non-conforming with respect to those requirements, as it already encroaches. And you can see they don't propose to go closer. It's essentially an extension of a non-conformity. It also just barely clips the rear yard setback here, which is a 1.21 square foot encroachment. And then finally, the last bulk encroachment is on the back here. There's no steep slope zone encroachment on the back, but it does encroach within the red line here, which is the required rear yard. And that maximum encroachment is 11.57 feet with a total area encroachment of 120.17 square feet. This is a slide of the neighborhood and the adjacent zoning. All of it's zoned R4 and all of it's in the lakefront overlay zone. The improvement on the front faces the road. The other improvements are on the back and they face the ravine. And here you can see just the neighborhood again. There is one neighbor to the west. It's relatively close. I can't remember their setback distance there. Other than that, other homes are further away. Other city commission and state comments. So engineering division. So the engineering division had 3 comments in their packet. One of those comments was already met by the applicant's resubmission. And the other 2 comments, those are construction notes for if this is approved and the applicant goes for permit. And those don't need to be conditions of approval because those are just statement of requirements. Anyone who does any work within the steep slope zone or an extra 10-foot setback from the steep slope zone has to submit the submission requirements of section 150.1907, which call for various extra technical review and documentations to make sure that the slope is properly protected. For forestry, no objections. They had their simpler statement, which is all matters of tree preservation to be addressed in permitting as appropriate. Then finally, I do want to bring attention to another city commission review as well as a state review. So this property is locally landmarked by the city, and it also has a historic restrictive covenant on the property. And so the city's Historic Preservation Commission did review this proposal at its July 13th meeting, and I linked to that and discussed that in my report. And the HPC approved the changes that are proposed with their historic criteria that they use in the city code, and they approved these changes by a vote of 5-0. And then also the State Historic Preservation Office, which evidently is called SHPO for short.
SHPO.
Yes, they also, it was conveyed to me from my colleague that SHPO approved all exterior and interior changes. So this has already been reviewed by both the city and the state from a historic standpoint and has been granted those approvals. Recommendation, Plan and Design Commission should open the public hearing, take testimony, consider the request and deliberate, provide feedback, and if appropriate, direct findings of fact for a future meeting. The applicant has requested findings of fact recommending approval. Those are included in the packet, should the PDC be ready to act. The applicant also addressed the public benefit in the report. I didn't have a slide on that, but that was included in the report. And of course, the commission can certainly ask the applicant. And then I just want to point out I received no written public comments regarding this application. Thanks.
Thank you, Carl. Questions for staff? Yes, Commissioner Kirch.
So the steep slope variations come to us rather than the zoning board because this was a prior PUD, even though it's a single family. So there isn't like an end action. I thought once we split the properties that would, it seems unnecessarily complicated to have the homeowner have to come back under a PUD amendment
Well, if he
after it was done. I'm just curious.
didn't come to us, he would have had to go to the zoning board of appeals, right?
The-
But because it's a PUD, it comes to us.
That's correct. So this is a planned unit development.
One way or another, he would have to go for a hearing.
That planned development encumbers this property, and the property is subject to that PUD approval. And these are variations that are requested, and staff do not have the administrative authority to approve variations to a PUD. So this is here as opposed to the zoning board of appeals. Yes, normally single family. Yes, normally single family.
So this is
But for extenuating circumstances, as this case is, we
Strange
go to
case.
zoning board of appeals.
In the original approval, didn't we approve variations to the rear and side yard setbacks?
Yeah, may I respond?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, the commission both recommended that and the city council approved that. That was for the building. Variations are not just for anything that then falls within that new footprint. That was only for the existing building because when the city requested this property line here, it changed the rear yard, and so it moved it up. And so this portion here now encroached. And then the same thing with side yard. Now this area now encroached. And so the city did have to ask for those variations, but that was for the existing building. That doesn't allow anyone in perpetuity to just meet those new setbacks in any way, shape, or form that they want. They'd have to come back for new new bulk construction to get new variations.
Which is why we now specify in the findings of fact these numbers, which we didn't do in the original.
Well,
Yeah.
yes, yes to part of that question. I guess I'd have to check to see if the numbers were in the original.
I just, they weren't,
I trust Commissioner Kurtz.
they weren't in the findings of fact.
Oh, in the findings of fact,
Yeah, findings of-
that may in fact be true, but I'm pretty sure they were in the ordinance as well as the
Okay,
the
and then,
documents attached.
last question, the public benefit, now this triggers a new public benefit, right? Which would need to be an additional benefit on top of what was in the original PUD.
Yes, that's correct. I mean, it's up to the commission to determine, one, to what, this is an amendment, and so it does trigger a new public benefit conversation, and so that's up to the commission to discuss to what extent the prior benefit carries over, and then, of course, the commission can discuss what the applicant proposed in their letter.
And keep in mind that the public benefit should be commensurate with the relief being requested.
That's correct.
And in this case, realistically, I look at the part that's up to the northeast, that's a reduction in an existing non-conforming encroachment, right?
That's correct.
If you look at the other two additions, they're pretty minor in terms of their impact. They're not a lot of square footage.
Yeah,
So,
I agree, I'm just saying that what's in the packet, what they seem to have proposed, the public benefit they seem to have proposed is the same public benefit that we approved in before, so
well, before, it
Whatever.
was a different petitioner also.
yeah, that's,
Okay.
thank you.
Other questions?
I have just one quick,
Yep.
on the southwest, where it encroaches 1.21 square feet, that piece, is that still flush with the back of the building, or?
Looks that way.
As far, Commissioner Hecht, as far as I can tell, it's essentially flush.
Okay, it's not extending.
Not additional encroachment, is that what you're asking?
And you'll have to,
In terms of proximity to that property line, but it is a larger it is an
No, I know it's
encroachment,
wide,
right?
but it's one
terms
of
of
the
square
back of
feet.
it.
you'll have to forgive my blue and yellow markup.
Fine.
It's
No, no.
PowerPoint is a blunt instrument, not
Yeah, right.
necessarily a surgical tool.
Yeah.
No, I think it's fine.
Okay.
All right, is the petitioner here? Would you come on up, and do you want to say something? You don't have to. Then come on up and I'll have to swear you in. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you. If you would state your name and spell your last name for the note taker, it would be appreciated.
Sure. I'm Scott Javore. It's Javore. I am the architect for the project, along with Michael Munchow, who's over here. The architectural consultants are Susan Benjamin and Gwen Summers-Yant. The owners of the house, Maura and Richard Zick, both have COVID, unfortunately,
Oh, no.
or they would be here.
No, we don't want him here with those.
No, they did not want to infect anyone, so. The only thing I wanted to mention about that last question is it is flush, it does not extend further. And that's also a rear yard variation for the front of the house, which is just a bit unusual, but sort of consistent with all of this.
It's because of the nature of the lot.
The irregular
In this
shape,
case, right?
exactly.
Any questions for Mr. Javore? Okay, thank you. I think you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
All right, so any comments from anybody from the public want to address this issue? Seeing none. Let's turn to, we have draft findings of fact in our packet. And so I think it would be wise to get a motion on the table. Did you want to say something, councilperson? Okay.
Before you have a motion or further discussion, I just wanted to add, I'm the alternate liaison for the Historic Preservation Commission. So I attended the hearing where this property was discussed. And I have to say, the commission was unbelievably enthusiastic about the project. I just want to make sure that a 5-0 vote is fully represented here because, and they went over the front part, which is actually the garage, which really does change it encroaches, but it also brought in the elements of the building, which would make it more of a single-family home in such a way that I think the commission was extremely impressed. So I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you for that
had
background. I
additional
appreciate it.
information.
Thank you. All right, can we get a motion on the findings of fact, and then we can have discussion after we have a motion in a second.
I move that we approve the draft findings of fact, recommending approval of the application.
Moved by Commissioner Heck. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bruckman. Okay, any discussion? Not seeing any. So, Mr. Fontaine, will you please call the roll?
Commissioner Mantis.
Aye.
Commissioner Brockman.
Aye.
Commissioner Kirsch.
Aye.
Commissioner Heck.
Aye.
Vice Chair Moore.
Aye.
Chairman Hainsworthy.
Aye. 6 ayes, no nays. Motion carries. This will be forwarded to the City Council for final action. Thank you and good luck to you guys. Okay. All right. Next item of business is public hearing number 2023-PUD-003 and 2023-SUP-001 for a special use permit in the nature of a preliminary and final plan development and a special use permit to establish a motor vehicle washing facility, otherwise known as car wash, land use with design review, sign package, and zoning and city code variations at 1970 First Street. So, in case you missed it the last time. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Highland Park Plan and Design Commission. My name is Walter Hainsworthy. A quorum of the Plan and Design Commission being present, the members of the Plan and Design Commission will now introduce themselves for the record from my right, starting with Commissioner Bruckman.
Barissa Bruckman.
Adam Hecht.
Karen Moore.
Steve Kirch.
Danny Mantis.
The Plan and Design Commission is charged with hearing applications for rezonings, plan developments, and subdivisions under the zoning ordinance and subdivision regulations of the City of Highland Park. In all matters, we recommend to the City Council based on the testimony presented to us in the hearing. We are required to decide cases within 45 days after receipt of the transcript. All testimony will be under oath. Both applicants and others who wish to speak on a particular case should present specific evidence as to why a proposal meets or fails to meet the standards of relief requested. For clarity of our record, only one person at a time will speak, and all questions will be directed through the chair. We ask that you make every effort not to be repetitive in your testimony. And finally, we will make every effort to adhere to the schedule prepared. For tonight's hearing, if additional time is needed on a matter, it will be continued until the next available agenda. And with that, I open the floor for the staff to the Plan and Design Commission to read into the record proof of publication and ownership.
Proof of publication and ownership are available for viewing at the Offices of Community Development, 1150 Half Day Road in Highland Park.
Thank you, Mr. Fontaine. Mr. Burhop, is you manning this one as well?
Yes, sure, thank you.
Okay. Floor is yours.
All right, thank you, Chair. Again, my name is Carl Burhop. I'm a senior planner with the City of Highland Park for the Community Development Department, the Planning Division, and this is a presentation on the plan development, which is acronym for that's a PUD, and then a special use permit, acronym for that's an SUP, and then design review with variations for a proposed car wash at 1970 First Street. Okay, so this is the site. It's at the corner of First Street and Elm Place. The proposal, summarily speaking, renovate and reuse the existing building as a car wash. It was previously a car wash at some point in time in the past. Install outdoor payment kiosks, install outdoor vacuums, and then various other related accessory changes to the site. So there's 3 requests to this. There's the PUD, the Plan and Design Commission, PDC, is a recommendation body. Then there's the SUP, the special use permit, to establish a conditional use, the motor vehicle washing facility. That's what our code calls it. I'll just refer to it as a car wash. That's what common parlance is. The PDC for that is a recommendation body. And then there's the design review with certain variations for which the PDC is actually the decision maker. This is the site plan. The yellow is the existing building. The applicant is essentially, the applicant is essentially keeping the building there, but making changes to it and renovating it. New exterior and interior changes. Then the applicant's proposing a certain layout and a certain circulation. There are, I believe, 10 parking spaces proposed, though these parking spaces, I believe, are vacuum stations. One of staff's comment was that the applicant should just depict the vacuums on that, how many there are and where they're going. These are the payment kiosks over here. This would be the north side. And then the applicant proposes 3 parallel parking spaces here. There were floor plans in the packet. I'm not sure I have them in my presentation, but they were in the packet. Interior is essentially mechanical equipment and storage, and then there's an office. Based on the calculation for parking, actually, you know what? I have another slide for parking. Let's move on. So chapter 150 zoning variation. So as submitted, there will need to be variations in lighting requirements. I have another slide on that. Landscaping has reviewed. I have asked the applicant to make 1 or 2 clarifications to verify if landscaping relief will be needed, if any. I actually speculate there may not be a landscaping requirement for this proposal, and I'll indicate why. Then signage is still being reviewed. So for lighting, so the pole height will have to come down a foot, or the applicant will have to clarify that they are requesting that relief, so they can either revise or ask for relief for that. The foot candles at the property line are exceeded. The peak was 10.4 foot candles along the east side along First Street, but there were several points where it exceeded the maximum allowed of 1.0 foot candles. The applicant needs to have their lighting expert provide the foot candle average / minimum uniformity ratio to verify if that's met or not. And then as the report indicated, there are a few more specifications needed as to whether or not the bug rating will be met, the 3000 Kelvin CCT will be met, and whether there's shielding or cutoff. The applicant did provide, so there was a photometric plan, and there was some spec information on the bottom. And I just would ask, staff would request that those be clarified, because there was one number there. I'm not sure if it was the Kelvin or not. Well, I don't want to speculate. But it would have been 5,000 if it was actually on there. Yeah. So that would be recommended for lighting, and that was in the staff report as well. All of this was in the staff report. Now that's new. Landscaping. This was all in the staff report. There's no new foundation, so they don't need, the applicant doesn't have to do foundation plantings. The parking lot size does not trigger the interior landscaping. And so the only place that they would have to do landscaping is if there was any new vehicular use area within 25 feet of these property lines. So if there is a landscaping requirement, it will be minimal. And then again, staff just asked that that be clarified. Other comments, and these were in the staff report as well, verify hours of operation for the car wash and the outdoor vacuums. The outdoor vacuums, that was in the staff report. They should be depicted on the site plan. The outdoor vacuums would need relief per section 150.408 sub A, which if you go to that section, it limits outdoor uses in commercial and industrial zoning districts. Staff requested more materials, information on the trash enclosure. Also, the attachment 7A and 7B, which included elevations with dimensions and materials, didn't quite match the site plan. So the applicant should just clarify, because there were some differences with how the parking was laid out in the vacuums. The applicant should address the public benefit, and then verify where mechanical equipment will be placed if located outside or on the building. Neighborhood and zoning. So immediately to the north and to the west and to the south, that's all zoned commercial. So immediately to the north and the west is similarly zoned B45. And to the south, it's B5, which is the downtown district. It is actually along the Article 23 overlay zones. Those aren't triggered. Well, the setbacks aren't triggered because this is not new construction and it's not an addition. It's just renovation of existing building. The closest residents are approximately, I use the GIS on this, it's approximately 285 feet away to that residence on this property. I believe this is a commercial building. And again, it's at the intersection of two streets, and then you have the railroad at that location to the east or southeast. So McDonald's to the north, and then to the west is a multi-tenant center. Stacking exhibit. So the applicant provided this exhibit in their traffic analysis or traffic study. The city did send this out to Civil Tech, which is the city's third-party reviewer for traffic. Our Public Works Department also reviewed it. Planning comment from planning staff, an ADA space should be provided as required. Article 8 would require at least one space. Otherwise, off-street parking is met. Number of spaces and dimensions comply with Article 8 for their parking spaces. No loading space was proposed. The site, previously was a car wash. Renderings. Again, these were in the packet. I think I just put 2 in here. So this gives an idea of how the applicant is proposing the changes to the building and to the maneuverability. Engineering division. So I do have new comments from the engineering division that I don't believe are in the packet or in their memo. The engineering division recommended a do not enter sign should be posted at the exit of the car wash so that people don't pull in the wrong way on accident. And then that a stop sign should be also provided at that exit so that cars leaving the car wash stop before they go into the sidewalk or right-of-way or street. And then the engineering division had comments, again, they're in the packet, regarding curb and gutter and sidewalk demo and construction. They had 6 total comments in the attachment that was in the packet. Civil Tech, they had 1 comment about providing curb stops or equivalent between the vehicular space within the site and the public sidewalk to keep cars from driving onto the sidewalk as they circulate on site. Then forestry had a recommendation about species proposed. And you'll have to forgive me, there's a chance the applicant already resolved that. They did submit some revisions, and I just simply did not have time to circulate them to forestry, but there's a chance that's already been resolved. And in fact, the applicant actually submitted several revised items to me within the last day or 2, and again, I apologize, I simply have not had a chance to review those. The PDC, Plan Design Commission should open the public hearing, take testimony, consider the request and deliberate, provide feedback, and if appropriate, direct findings of fact for a future meeting. I can take questions if there are any. The only thing that, from a staff standpoint, is we'll just have to work with the applicant. Well, all the comments apply, but I just will reiterate that staff will have to work with the applicant to indicate what type of sign variations are needed.
As I anticipate there are a number of.
Yep. I apologize, I was not able to have that ready for this meeting.
Questions, let's go, start from the left.
Questions for staff?
Question for staff?
No, sir.
No questions for staff.
No questions.
No questions.
Jackson, you got anything? I do.
Yes, sir.
Was there ever an SUP to allow this particular use previously?
No, there was not. I could not locate that. I looked on the aerial image to see how long the building's been there. It's been there since the
a long time.
1960s, but I don't actually know, but I can't actually state when the prior car wash was there.
But regardless, if there was one, this car wash has been abandoned for about 4 or 5 years, right? And then the SUP would have expired anyway, correct?
That's correct.
So, where I'm going is, in my opinion, and I'll give you an opinion here, I'm going to look at this as a brand-new development. I don't care what's there now, personally, because it never was the subject of a hearing before, and now it's a special use permit. So when I talk to the applicant, which I have a lot of questions for them, just so you all know where I'm coming from, it's like we're working with a clean slate,
Why
personally.
don't we just confirm that with council if that's.
Council, is that,
Let's do.
Corporation Council, am I wrong in that approach?
Categorizing it as a,
As basically a new petition that the fact that there was something there before shouldn't basically weigh in on how we view this.
well, that's really up to the commission, how they
Okay.
wish to view this.
Right.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah.
It's just not a pre-existing,
That's
non-conforming.
right.
Special use.
It's a new
It's a
petition.
new Because that
Okay.
use was abandoned.
Right.
The building is an existing non-conforming building, because obviously,
But not use.
yeah, but not used.
Right.
And there was.
So
no-
how does the building not conform to the current ordinance?
The,
Well, because this is a planned development, that relief has to be factored into the request, correct?
the building is an existing non-conforming use, the building.
Not the
does-
use, I'm talking about the you said it's a non-conforming building,
Yeah, the
not
building.
a non-conforming use. So
Correct.
what's non-conforming about the building?
Well, the building, on the west side, it's a 0 setback, and on the south side, they can go to a minimum of 0, and I believe the maximum, it was in my report, but I didn't look at it too much because it's already there, but it was in my report. I think the maximum is 10. So if it doesn't fall within that setback, it's non-conforming with respect to that setback.
So, two other quick questions. One is, did Civil Tech look at the internal site circulation on this property and comment on it? Or did they only deal with what was in the traffic report, which was all off-site, coming and going from the site, but nothing within the property lines, correct?
Well, my response to that is they reviewed whatever the traffic study was, the
So they only reviewed the
6 or
traffic
7
study.
pages, however long it
They
was.
they didn't look at the site plan and say, oh, this is a potentially dangerous situation with the way that they've laid this out. And I'm not saying it is or it isn't, I'm just trying to say, did we get an opinion on the on-site circulation here?
I didn't see one.
I didn't either,
didn't see one.
that's why I'm asking, because I'm interested in
We
what
can
they
put
would have thought.
Whatever questions the commission has
Right.
to Civil Tech.
I would like, because I don't think we're going to get through all this tonight, I would like to get an opinion from them as to what they think about the on-site circulation, and I think you will get where I'm going from when I talk to the petitioner. And I apologize to the petitioners, but as your attorney knows, I designed car washes for 40 years.
So they did do an internal circulation review in the KLOA study.
Yeah, but we don't have any comment from Civil Tech. So I would like to hear from Civil Tech what they think about it. And then, just so I'm clear, there are aspects in the code about noise, a permissible noise level from the equipment, including the outdoor vacuums, right? It's got to be 55 dB maximum of 55 dB at the property line. And that would also apply, let's say, to the dryer in the car wash itself, correct?
Sorry, it was that, yeah, the project has to comply with the Article 6 performance standards, that is correct.
Okay. That's all I have for you right now. All right, petitioner, would you like to come up and get sworn in? Good to see you, Mr. Friedman. Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. Ready?
Please state your name and spell your last name for the,
Lawrence Friedman, Freedman. I'm an attorney with the firm of Ashanos, Friedman and Logan. My address is 95 Revere Drive, Northbrook. Michael, introduce yourself, please.
And I'm Michael Goldman. I'm Vice President, General Counsel, Waterway Gas and Wash Company. Our corporate address is 727 Goddard Avenue, Chesterfield, Missouri, 63005.
welcome, glad to have you. All right,
I'm going to have,
floor is yours.
thank you. I'm going to have Mr. Goldman, first of all, acquaint you with who the applicant is.
Fine.
And try and answer some of the questions that were posed to us in the staff report. And then, of course, based on your comment, Mr. Chairman, I assume there's going to be some additional questions. And we'll
Oh,
answer
yes.
them. I had expected to.
Never a good thing when the chairman shows up with marked up plans.
We can answer them.
I'm sure you can.
Okay. Well, good evening again. My name is Mike Goldman, as said, Vice President, General Counsel, Waterway, and I've been here before. I was here when we took over the Crossroads Car Wash. that we reopened in January 2019. And I can't speak for any of your experiences, but I think we've had a really strong and successful introduction to Highland Park. We've become active in the community, and I think we took, as with the old lake car wash, we took a business that was on the downside, and we made a significant investment and grew it and improved it and have made it really, I think, a first-rate operation. Regarding lake car wash, you're correct. It has not, actually, less time than you would think. It operated for about 2 months, 30 months ago. So that pushes us out when the current owner brought somebody in to run it, and they ran it for about 2 or maybe 3 months and walked away because they really weren't in the car wash business. So it has been a little over 30 months. Therefore, as you pointed out, we do get to come here and start from scratch. That being said, I do want to point out that Waterway is really very determined and excited to make this first rate, just like we did with Crossroads, and take the lake car wash, which is, it's a single-use building. It's in a difficult to redevelop site, and take that single-use building and improve it and bring it up to what we think the residents in Highland Park really come to expect. So we're really looking forward to that process. So I wanted to answer the specific questions. Obviously, we're going to have some more questions for me, but I did want to answer the specific questions in the report. First thing, there was a question about hours. Our proposed hours would be 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Typically, it's depending on seasonality. We sometimes shut down a little earlier, almost always shut down a little earlier, but during the golden days of summer, around solstice, when we get light and maybe a few more hours, we'll try to go till then. And 7 o'clock is really when our customers usually the early birds want to get their car washed. So that is what we would hope for. Then second question was about our trash enclosure. We're proposing a CMU, and I do have material samples for all of the building. We're proposing a CMU that's painted just like the back of the building. So it's just a clean white CMU trash enclosure. As far as there are some questions about existing photos, those were provided. Elevations, those were provided. Landscaping, we have revised the particular tree in question and replaced it with the tree that was recommended by staff. If you go there today, unfortunately, we don't own it yet. There are 2 trees that are more dead than alive, and they are now falling down across the lot, so it's not getting better. In regards to exterior lighting, we'll meet the city code. We did show, you're correct, we showed 16 feet rather than 17 feet, so we will instead of 15 feet, so we will bring that down, and obviously we will match the code requirements and the lighting. In regards to the vacuum, which I know is a question as far as the noise it creates, I want to be clear, the vacuum there are the motors, the producers is what we call them in the industry, so the big round things that create the suction. So those are actually inside the building. So those producers are inside the building, and that keeps, it'll be in an enclosed area, and that will not create a new sound. Now, of course, and if you all have been to our other Highland Park location, the vacuums themselves, there is a sound that they make. It is, when we have done other decibel testing, it is not as loud as your home vacuum, as your Dyson that you use in your house. These vacuums, the vacuum that they create is not as loud as that. And we do have decibel ratings. Sadly, I do not have those with me, but those are all fairly standard, and we have gone through that quite a bit. Then, in regards to the public benefit, there are a series of items that I pointed out, and really, the first one, and I understand the clean slate point of view, but the first one is this is a single-use building in an important part of town, and it's not getting any better. The building's getting worse. Every day that goes by, our investment in it is going to have to increase. And frankly, it's just a difficult building to bring back up to snuff. So one thing is bringing a business back into the city that deserves a open business rather than a closed business. Now, when I go back to the actual code, which as a lawyer, sometimes I force myself to do that. There are questions about the environment. One of the public benefits is the environmental question. So we're putting in LED lighting versus the old metal halide lighting, which is absolutely an energy efficient and also better for the night skies. We're also clearing up a lot of the dead landscape, and it's all pretty much dead, and putting in, while a modest amount of landscape, frankly, because there isn't a whole lot of space, we are putting in a new landscape. Then environmental is really, I think, in some ways, the most interesting thing. We don't see it. And as you know, there's a sand oil separator that takes the car wash rinse water, and so before the rinse water goes into the public sewer, it has to go through the sand oil separator, so all the junk comes out. And then that doesn't go into the public waterways. There is not currently a sand oil separator. They had something that is, my car wash people had never actually seen it before, and we've been in business 50 some odd years. It wasn't even a settling tank. And so when we bring in our car wash, hopefully, we will, of course, bring in a sand oil separator, which is a significant investment, but keeps the sand, the oil, the junk that comes off every car that gets washed, whether it's in your driveway or anywhere else, whether by rain or anything, that keeps that from going into the public sewers. So it goes into the separate tank that we get cleaned out separately. Now, in regards to the on-site traffic, so it was the ITE studies. I kind of wish we washed that many cars. We don't. I pulled up for the last 12 months, how many cars we washed in our existing Highland Park location, which is going to be a more, in our estimation, a busier location. It will always be busier. And we never have met those ITE standards. So that scary to me when I saw it, showing 37 some odd cars on site, that's just not how, that hasn't been our experience. And again, we don't have to be in theory. You can just go to our location, which is 7 minutes from here, and see what happens when we get busy. We move the cars through. In fact, with this location, our intention is to make it that people stay in their cars their entire time. So that keeps it from the queue, moving quickly, and it keeps us moving through. As far as the free vacuums, 7 free vacuums as we talked about, and customers have the option to use them, or most people, in our experience, it's about 25% of the customers will use them. So about 75% of the people who are going through the wash, since we aren't offering the full service wash at this location, they'll go to our other location or one of our other locations in the close to their work or business and our work or home, and get that interior cleaning that we do at the other locations. But this, just to be clear, is not intended as that full service, you get out of the car, we take it from you location. You stay in the car the entire time, and then you have the option to leave out either of the existing curb cuts where cars have been leaving the car wash again for close to, I think, 54 years. So I'm sure there's plenty of other questions, and I'm happy to address anything, and really look forward to it.
Anything else you want to add? All right, let's start from the right this time. Commissioner Bruckman?
No questions at the moment, thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Hecht?
I think you're gonna hear a theme of this, so. One of the problems with when it was Lake Car Wash, I think that was the name of it.
Yes.
5 years ago, whenever it really operated in full, was the exit. If there's any traffic there, the car coming out of the tunnel, there's room for maybe one really before you hit the street. And if there's any traffic, that car is gonna have to sit and wait. And I saw that quite a bit, where that was a problem. And either there's gonna become I would think a hazardous situation where somebody's trying to pull out of the car wash because they need to get out to let the next car come out. Or there's just gonna back up into the car wash itself. And this, there's already some, on the property across the street where the UPS store is, coming out onto First, you can't take a left to go north. We're here, I don't know if there's gonna be similar restrictions, but that seems to me to be a problem here, that there's just no room
maybe
for
it
exiting cars based on where the building is currently located. And that was, at least as far as I remember, and I've lived here for almost 20 years, that was an issue even when the old car wash was operating. I don't know if I was here long enough to see if that car wash was busier at some point in the past, because the building has been deteriorating for a long time, so I don't know if, maybe the business wasn't so good the last few years before it closed. But that gives me some pause, that this is gonna become a safety hazard because of cars trying to get in and out, or get by that intersection. So I don't know if
The
that's.
Vice Chair wanted to add something to that?
I was just gonna say, maybe it needs to be right turn, exit only, because making a left turn out of there is really difficult, and what you may not realize is that the traffic coming westbound across the tracks does not stop.
Right.
They have,
And-
the right of way to come through there, so now you're trying to get across 2 lanes of traffic to make a left turn, to get into the right lane to go east, and you got cars coming, and it's kind of crazy.
So not to steal anyone else's thunder, because I lived here for 38 years, 39 years. That corner is very dangerous. It was always very dangerous. There is room for one car coming out before you hit the street. Despite what you say about summer being your busy time, and I don't doubt that you have a lot of information, my experience was the busiest time for a car wash was the first warm day after a snowy event, because everybody had slush on their cars and they wanted to get it off, right? And if that area ices up, which it will, because cars are gonna track water out that exit, somebody's gonna slide into that road. They may have in the past, but both of those entrances off of Elm are very close to the corner, and they're very close to, and as, I can picture somebody trying to turn left into the entrance and blocking that whole route as well, because somebody is coming across the tracks and they don't stop. So I think you need to take a look. I'm going to ask you to really take a look at that circulation on the exit and the entrance off of Elm, because I'm not comfortable with it the way it is today. And Jackson, you wanted to, Jackson, of course, goes speeding through there as a teenage driver, right?
Speeding through there, but I did park on First Avenue for quite a while last year. Another thing about that intersection is that the intersection itself gets really busy just in general, especially during school, right after school days, when literally everyone is trying to use that intersection to get out. We all go turn around in parking lots and then come out that way. The other thing is that exit to the left of it is the entrance, and to the right of it is the entrance to another lot. So that whole stretch is basically just pavement, and you just pull it. That's the point. I know Lake, people have used it to turn around at this point. People have used it just for anything because it is just a stretch of pavement and it's open and just that intersection, that whole idea of having that intersection there, both on First and on Elm, just be a stretch of pavement is, again, super dangerous. People just pull through. They try to use it to go around the stop sign at points. That whole intersection, having that pavement and so many entrances and exits be really close to each other is just like an iffy idea.
So I mentioned attendance in your narrative, right? That you have attendance there. Do they wipe off the cars when they come out? Is that part of their responsibility? So it's only the dryer and it's not a dryer, it's a blower. So it's blowing water off of a car. It's not dry, and that water goes somewhere, it goes all over. So it's conceivable it's gonna blow out onto that exit as well, right? And of course, the wheels on the car are gonna track water as well. Yeah, Jackson?
And that exit is on a noticeable slope, just to be clear. It's not flat. There is a slope down
Yeah.
that exit.
Well, actually, how far back into the tunnel are the blowers?
Yeah,
Where is there water being blown out the tunnel exit, or is it contained inside the building? 'Cause this is
There's a
awfully
drain
long.
at the end there's a drain at the end that picks up. I don't know if this has a laser.
So is it like
But
a
I'm
trench
happy
drain?
to-
It's a trench drain
Trench drain.
outside the exit, right?
There's a.
But as Jackson pointed out, this property slopes down toward Elm. So if it doesn't get caught in that trench drain, which it won't, because the car is gonna pull forward and take that water off of its tires and whatever's dripping off of it onto the exit. And so it's then gonna be on the street. And so that's, there's a safety concern, in my mind, there's a safety concern here. I mean, personally, if that exit was back, so you could stack 2 or 3 cars at least before you hit your property line, that would be a better situation than what you inherited, let's put it that way. Because I think what you inherited is not a good situation, personally. Anything else, Mr. Hecht?
I think along the same line, well, yeah, I'm looking at the circulation patterns here. No, I don't see there.
They're up on the screen, right?
Yeah, that, I'm just looking at my copy.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily see there being 32 cars in a line for this. I think that's a bit,
Yeah.
it'd be
That's
wonderful
generous.
if you own the car wash, but the entrance off of First, to get into there, if you have people, I don't know how you have people coming in off of Elm Place
And off of First.
next to the exit, and then off of First as well. You're gonna,
If
gonna be
you
a
put
zip.
that back up, Carl, for a second, and I can show you exactly, I think, where Adam's going. You see that car that's coming in off of First? How the heck are they, you're gonna hopefully count on somebody being really nice and letting them in, right?
I'm thinking road rage.
And I'm thinking, I know the people in Highland Park, they're not that nice, many of them. And so, if I was like back by First Street, let's say 5 cars back from where that car's trying to get in, and they got in, I would not be a happy camper, right? Because I waited in line and they kind of cut the line, right? So again, this is where I'm having problems with internal circulation. There are too many entrances, there's not enough organization to it for my liking. And so, I think you're asking for a lot of conflicts, right? So sorry to, again, steal
well, I
the
think,
thunder.
yeah, I think.
Well, and may I respond at some
Yeah,
point?
let
Yeah.
me finish and.
Let him finish and then.
I think the issue you've got on Elm Place, you get the exit, and you also have an entrance
Right, they're really close.
really close to the intersection, which I think is a really big problem, because you're gonna have cars coming in and going out the same way, and it's just gonna be, I'm not even sure they did that when the Lake Car Wash was open. I don't remember ever seeing that. I could be wrong, it's been a
No,
while.
I think
But on,
I think it was this way. These are existing, for the most part, these are all existing
Curb cuts. I know you're
curb cuts.
getting rid of
But
them.
again, there was never a hearing, this was here for 50 years. there were a lot fewer cars. Now there are a lot more cars. I mean, it used to be people had one car in a family. Now they have three or four, depending on the number of children they have.
And Renaissance wasn't there
A lot of things
at
weren't
the
there.
time. And then now we not only have Renaissance, but we took the Saks out and put a residential building, which I'm not sure is open yet, but if it's not,
It
it's
is.
close. So there's different, the landscape is far different than it was 55, 60 years ago. And I have, that's just for me, with the existing ingress egress here. I don't know if that's been put into how to, I'd like to see some.
Yeah,
Oh, there is, okay. So
There we go. They're there.
That to me doesn't work.
Right.
And I don't know if there's been I don't know the condition of the building, whether it's feasible to just take the whole thing down and move it back, so that your exit is not so close.
Or
I
take
don't know.
part of it off.
Or
Yeah,
something
you know,
like that.
I don't know a traffic engineer in their right mind that would allow an entrance where that entrance is right on the corner, right? I mean, there's nobody that I know, having dealt with, that would say, or no municipality that would allow that close to an intersection, right, for instance. I understand it's there now, but it doesn't need to be there, right? We don't have to approve it with this plan with that there, so. All right, you want to respond to what?
Well,
what's
yes, for
that?
sure, of course. First thing is, I hope I didn't misspeak. We aren't busiest in the summer. You're totally correct. It's after a snow. We just have longer hours in the summer because we have sunlight. So I just want to make sure that we're on the same page.
Okay, thank you.
So, and then if we could, for 1 second, when this was run as a full-service car wash, when it was run by Lake, they would park 4 or 5 cars at the exit and finish them out there. So it's not a single car, there's space. They had 4, they would stack them up, 1, 2, 1, 2. And so they'd have more cars. Now, I'm not saying that that's because we don't intend to do that. We're not going to tile dry your cars. So it's a little more space than, it's not a single car that's going to cause a queue problem.
But they also didn't, I don't think, have cars coming in off of that.
Well, and that's the
There,
second.
because they pull them over, you're right. And you got out of the car at Lake, and they went, unlike what you're doing a self-service. Lake was a full-service
Yes.
car wash. And so the patrons had to get out, they were out at the entrance, walked through the space, and then after their car was done, a porter pulled it over, and they washed, and they wiped it dry, right? Kind of like it was at Crossroads before you all, and I think you still do wipe the cars down after they come out there,
that's what
right?
Yeah.
That's not happening here, right? People are, you're telling me they're gonna stack up right down, they're gonna come in off of that intersection, or that entrance that's right on the corner, and they're gonna start stacking, right? And so there's no place for somebody to pull out and wait to be able to get, let their car drip or go out and make a left-hand turn. There's no room whatsoever to do that. The car that you see in that picture is not on your property. It's out in the right-of-way. And so, you've got to hold these things, in my mind, on your property. You can't, I don't want them on the right-of-way dripping water, because it's going to cause icing problems on the street. That's where this is just part of what I'm struggling with here, is because, ideally, I appreciate that you're coming into, you're coming into town and you're rehabbing an old building. I appreciate that. But it's got to be, in my mind, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, if this building wasn't there and this was just a lot, would I allow this development as you're showing it to be built? That's what I'm struggling with, because I look at this and say, I would want, as Commissioner Heck just said, a smaller building that gave you more room to discharge cars. I would want to have fewer entrances so that so that the traffic flow on site was really better. I mean, I look at your site plan, I go, well, okay, somebody's gonna pull in and vacuum their car. If all those cars are stacked there, how the heck are they getting out of there? Because I don't see a way for them to back out after they've vacuumed their car, for instance, because there'll be a car blocking them. And if you go back again to that stacking drawing, and I agree, you're never gonna have that many cars stacked there. I understand that, right? But if I look at this, and I don't know whether they vacuum before, most of your customers vacuum before or after they go through the wash. But that's something I'd like to hear from you. But you see where those cars are, and you see where, basically where those vacuums are. And there's no real good way for somebody to back out of there and get out. And particularly if they are doing it after they've had the car wash, then they have to stand in line basically with all those cars just to exit the property. And that doesn't seem to make sense to me.
Yeah. So, something, does this have a laser pointer?
You can feel free to use this.
Okay.
Where's the big stick, Carl?
And so it's easier to see.
Okay, great. So,
Did we lose the giant stick?
okay.
Well, there's been advised not to use this stick.
Okay, yeah, because somebody's gonna put it through the TV.
Right.
So, just to be clarify, we have up here 3
Yep.
outside payment kiosks.
I know.
So in our other locations that are really, I'm not trying to downsell this location,
No.
we're spending a lot of money on it, but locations that are a lot busier, we have typically 2. We've done 3, so we've got a stacking of about 10 cars before you even enter the car wash tunnel. Our intention, when I saw this, I knew it was going to cause, that people were going to be concerned. We don't ever intend to people to enter here. That doesn't make any sense.
Then
We
we will
will-
close
our-
off that driveway?
I would be happy to make it an exit only.
No, I mean, close it.
The entrance side,
The entrance side.
This,
at the very.
So
Right
what
there.
I've heard already is make that exit right out only. And that means configuring it, not just putting a sign up that says no left turn in my mind. So configure it so it's exit only and close that driveway that's on the corner.
well, I mean, I'm going to tell you, even though you said you don't know any traffic engineer, this was looked at by our traffic engineer and the cities, and they did not come with these same conclusions.
Well-
Now,
That's
And
why I want,
opinions.
that's why I want to see the traffic engineer. I mean, next meeting, I want the traffic engineer here because I want to ask him our traffic engineer, not
Okay,
yours.
understood. Well, I mean, so our intention is that our experiences, because, we've been doing this for a long time, is that we're going to have this queue area, very rarely are we going to get past it because we just don't see it. And we expect the cars to enter here. This is what makes sense. This is where most customers are going to enter. And it actually relieves some of the Elm Place pressure because we're allowing people to come back here and go out here, back onto First Street. Those people who want to go get a vacuum afterwards. So it does relieve some of the pressure on Elm Street that you're
Do
concerned
most of your
about.
customers vacuum before or after?
Almost entirely after.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly
No, that's fine.
exceptions, but it's after.
Thank you.
And so they would exit this way. And like I said, typically at other locations, we have like this, and we do have locations that empty out onto public streets, even closer to this with less queuing. And we have not had the ice problem that people have brought up in the past. And because what happens is we've got blowers in here, we've got drains in here. I'm not going to say tires can't get wet, because of course they do, but they come out as dry as they possibly can, and then we just haven't had it. And that's just real experience, talking to you, someone who's, again, we've been doing this for years, and I'd be happy to, if it sounds like we're going to have a next meeting, show you, which I will also say, the ownership group on this is, they're very anxious. And so it's going to be, I don't know that I'm going to be able to come back to a next meeting. I don't know if this, and it's not a threat or a promise or anything along those lines. But I have to have more time, obviously, to have a next meeting, and I don't know that I'm going to get that. So. we'll
You
have
own
to
the,
see.
does Waterway own the property?
No, we don't own the property.
Are you, you're a contract purchaser?
Yeah, we're a contract purchaser. And
Well,
that's-
I'm
that's-
sorry, but I
that's not your
can't
problem.
help that. That's not my
No, I understand. That's not your problem. I just want to, sort of have open hand on that one.
I appreciate that.
So the concern over the icing, again, go to any of our, well, you can't because it's not the winter right now. That just hasn't happened in the way that people expect. And the fall off into the street, it's a modest grade, but it's nothing that people are gonna, it's not an ice rink. And that people are gonna have a roller coaster ride down there. Obviously, we're gonna need to get some more traffic information in to answer the questions, and hopefully we have an opportunity to do that. Again, I'll tell you, and I know it's not an argument, I've been on both sides of this one. This building is falling down. I can't cut off the end of this building. I cut off the end of it would blow my budget by 10.
Appreciate it.
And we have to be able to reuse the shell in order for us to make a business that works.
And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Anything else, Adam?
No.
Vice Chair?
I think we've covered most of the questions I had, and I will say I have seen, when it was lakes, almost that entire drive filled up with cars. Granted, now that you've got the stacking of the 3 cash payment areas, that is, people will balk and they're not gonna fill up the area, but that angle parking is a concern. So we've already talked about that. My other concern is, and we will appreciate seeing the samples of the building. I have seen your facilities down in St. Louis as well. And they're the bright white and blue. The bright white, we don't really do in Highland Park so much. I mean, if you look around town, everything's kind of more of a earth tone. And if there's any way to kind of modify the colorings to match a little bit more, that would be awesome.
We have a gray option that we've used.
Okay.
We can talk about that.
Yep.
May I ask
Anything
you-
else?
May I ask you a question?
Sure.
Assuming he can get the time from ownership to come back, and I understand that's not your concern. You'll obviously continue this to a date certain. Would it be helpful during that interim if we have our traffic expert meet with the city's traffic?
Yeah, it would be helpful, but I also want the city's traffic expert to come and talk to me.
Well, we can't make him come, but I'm sure your staff can.
No, that's
We
what
can
I'm
also
saying.
bring our experts
Sure.
at night, but.
That's fine.
Hopefully, we're going to obviously have to take a look at the internal circulation and the exits and the entrances based on the
Thank you.
comments we heard tonight.
Yep.
And I think it would be helpful if we ran them
It
through
would.
both sets of
I
experts.
agree. That
before
would
we
be a
come
good
back.
idea. Not a problem, Larry. Anything else?
No more comments.
Mr. Kirch?
I'm not a traffic engineer, so
But-
I will look forward to 2 new traffic circulation reports. It did not seem intuitively correct to me. If you come out of the car wash, you want to go right to the dryers or the vacuums and then out, or if you're not vacuuming, go right out, right? No one should be coming in where we don't want anybody coming in. My only other concern is the public benefit. The project itself cannot be the public benefit. That's my interpretation of our public benefit code with PUDs. You're going to have to come up with something other than our new project is new and rehabilitates the site. That's what you're doing. That's not a public. Yes, it's going to be a lot better for the city, and the thing I think it looks good. I like bright white. I don't know why we can't liven up Highland Park a little bit. But, that will certainly be a much nicer corner. But that cannot be the public benefit.
We'll look at that.
Mr. Mantis?
I don't
have anything to offer that hasn't been said about the traffic patterns. To me, again, also not a traffic engineer, but I think right in, right out makes the most sense for the entire site. If you're coming in and turning right off of First and turning out right off of Elm is the only way that it works. Unless you're going to get vacuumed and then you turn right onto First, again, going south. That's the only way that the site, as it's laid out, makes sense to me. And then my other concern, in addition to traffic, you're right by the downtown district, so you're going to inherently have more pedestrians. And so, I want to make sure that we're being cognizant of traffic patterns for that reason as well.
Yeah, good point. Yes, Jackson?
I have one new thing.
Then I will add.
Traffic circulation system. I'm not a traffic engineer, and I'm hoping one of the committee members that is more experienced in this will be able to get the gist of what I'm trying to say and elucidate it a little better. At the very top near those pay icons, we have it going around the outermost pay thing, but it cuts off the other two lanes when you're trying to pull in. So you're gonna have all these people queuing in, but if you have, let's say, more than 2 people on the outer lane, it's cutting off the other 2 lanes from doing anything. At the same thing on the other side, pulling in, those 2 cars in the one closest to the building, you have those there. It is very difficult for a car, it looks very difficult for a car to pull around it and get into the any of the other 2 lanes.
Yeah, just out of curiosity, is, at the payment kiosk, are there gates that, after you pay, the gate goes up? So that could be controlled so that only one gate is going up at a time and
It's
until that
control,
part,
that,
right?
that controls the end.
So does that respond? Yeah, that's what I figured. Did you want to say something before I got into it?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Just from a
Councilor.
council perspective,
Yep.
perhaps to help jog your thought process here, I think that what Commissioner Kirch said about the public benefit is
Yeah.
spot on. But the city has been really looking at beautification and landscaping in a very, very positive way. And so just to jog you across that, whether it's benches or a little bit additional greenery, I think that those are the kinds of things that the city does very much appreciate. We had a very small little development near Brayside with 2 benches and a couple of trees. It was a beautiful public benefit, and it has turned into that. So just
Thank you. So a couple of more things, not to beat the dead horse. We talked about the conflicts on site, which I have concerns about. You brought up the environmental aspect of this, and I will tell the committee, it was always presented to us that that it was used less water to wash your car in a mechanical car wash than washing it on your driveway. However, one of the things that almost every car wash that I did in the Chicago area had is water reclamation. So you talked about the sand water, separator, and I have a sand oil separator, and I appreciate that. You have to have that anywhere you have cars, basically, being worked on in any way. But what we always had to put in was literally a pit, and the only thing that was not recycled water that was used in a wash process was the final rinse. And so will this have, and I know that the facility down on, your facility in South Highland Park has a water, has one they don't? Well, I'm surprised because they used to. I know the Shell next door does because I did that. And I know that almost every car wash that I did, they wanted that, they wanted that water reclamation system. So if you're serious about the environment, water usage is a critical aspect of the environment. And so whatever you can do, and I would say look into establishing, a water reclamation system in this is going to be, to me, that starts talking more about public benefit than just we're rebuilding this location, putting a new business in there. How fast is your conveyor at maximum speed? How many cars an hour can it wash?
So we use a belt conveyor here, so it's not the old track. It's a great big belt. And if you turn it up to high, you can get to 110 cars an hour.
Okay. So basically, close to every 30 seconds, a car is going to be coming out of that.
Yeah, but let me.
That's at high, and I know you don't normally run it at
Yes.
full speed. So what's your normal speed?
We run it typically at around 70, but we're not washing 70 cars an hour.
No, but
But
you
that-
could.
But you could, sure,
Right.
of course.
So I have to look at what you could do, not, in this case, because, again, we're concerned about that. Let me talk a little bit about design review. I have a little different opinion than my vice chair in that I am loath to tell somebody what they should do with their corporate image, right? You invest a lot of money in your corporate image. And so in this case, I don't have a problem with the colors. What I do have a problem with are the signs. You have way too many signs. So, for instance, if looking at this perspective, for instance, I don't know why you need waterway and car wash, big car wash sign with an arrow pointing. And then you have another waterway blade sign that faces the same direction that waterway sign and the car wash sign pay. I mean, I think your brand is strong enough that when they see waterway, they know it's a car wash. I don't know why you need a big sign that says car wash. Likewise, you've got a couple of graphics that are going where I think there are currently windows, a little further south here, right? And if you can find the elevation, right, you see those graphics? I don't believe those are even allowed by our sign code, but
We offered
again,
options with and without, we offered an option with and without those.
I don't
graphics.
want those there either, but you see, go back a second, Carl. Thank you. But you see what I'm saying when I say you've got this blade, what I will call a pylon or blade sign there that says waterway and is facing east and west. So why do you need any signs on the east side of the building? Because you've got that, you're capturing that traffic as they come down Elm Street, right? If you had turned that one waterway sign so it faced north, that would make more sense to me. So you've got to do something with the signs. You got to get rid of a lot of them, not just a few of them, a lot of them, because I think, number one, I'm sure you're out of compliance with the sign code. Number two, even if you aren't, I don't favor using, signs as attention-getting devices to any more of extent than you minimally have to, right? And we want to be able to, people to know you're there and that you're in business, but we don't want a proliferation of signs. And then are those signs internally illuminated? I don't believe you can do that by the sign code. I think they have to be externally illuminated. So you need to address all of that stuff. Plus in addition to that, you also have the pylon sign that you want to keep, which currently says Lake Car Wash. That should pick up the traffic going north-south on First Street. So to me, the only signs you need are the blade sign on the exit and the pylon sign on First Street, and everything else should go away, in my opinion, other than directional sign that says, enter, exit, one way or whatever. I don't have a problem, as I said, with the material, I don't think with the materials. I worry about particularly the signs that go to ground, if they're metal panels, about their durability. That's the one thing, we have standards to, that require, that you have to maintain, and it's easily, it's highly durable materials. And what I found is metal panels that go to ground get beat up pretty quickly, right? So.
We use them in many of our places, and we've come up with a couple of solutions for that.
Okay, so I want you to take a look at that as well. And then when you come back, because you will be coming back, I want, if you could put in your packet definitive statements about how you meet the standards. Because, I think a lot of these questions about the traffic and about the utility use go directly to the standards for approving a special use in a PUD. So I think I am done. If anybody else has anything for the petitioner, we will hear from the public now, if that's okay. Anybody in the public who would like to give testimony, come on up and get sworn in. We'll be happy to hear from you. You have 3 minutes once Carl starts the clock. If it's just you, we'll probably give you a little more leniency. Could you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And state your name and spell your last name for the...
Nancy Meacham, Meacham.
Welcome.
Okay. Do you mind putting up the one that shows buildings around,
Oh, the air, like
shows the residences
the aerial?
in color?
Is it this
Okay.
one you want?
Yeah, if you could just, well, yeah.
Can you
that-
blow that up,
just a
Carl?
minute. All right, I live at 2021 St. John's Avenue, and we're going to show you where that is. It's right here. I'm going to ask.
Right,
if We
right.
can,
Let's get the
if we,
pointer.
right up, over a
Right
little.
across the street. So you're at the corner of...
Right there, right there.
Corner of Elm and St. John's, right?
Right, that's correct.
Thank you.
And there are other condominiums where the arrow is. And you stated that the arrow, the closest, I guess, home condominium is 285 feet. If my math from grammar school serves me correctly, there's 5,280 feet in a mile, and that makes Les Maisons or 2021 St. John's just a little over a half a block from here. I've looked at the pictures, and my first comment is, there is already a waterway in Highland Park. I have looked at it, I've driven by another. It is not appropriate for that intersection. They have been asking for a zone variance. When the original car wash went in, my understanding is where Les Maisons was a car dealership, and they stored cars there.
Right.
The condominiums where the arrows are, it's my understanding, were not there also. And I say this is my understanding because I did not live here. But I do know Les Maisons was a car.
It was the Audi exchange before they
Yeah,
moved out to
whatever.
the highway.
In any event, just because something was a car wash before doesn't mean it should be now. I agree, everything needs to start from scratch. The other thing is, if you have pre-existing land uses that don't conform to current zoning, that doesn't mean that you change the zoning to allow them. I believe that what is proposed here fails to meet any of the required standards. I also believe one of the most important things is danger to our children, our families, other vehicles. You have children, you have elderly people walking down Elm to Walgreens. You have, if you could possibly bring up that last one, picture they showed with the exit on it on Elm, the last picture. No, around the side. Go down, please. All right.
Yeah.
If you look where that exit is now, there is another entrance/exit directly next to it, going into Love's, going into the barbecue. All you need to do is have somebody turn right, somebody coming out. I don't know if you can show right here.
I think we know where it is. It's right there.
That's where people come in and go out, to go to this shopping center that already exists. You want to add having people turn right, you have UPS and a new little restaurant on the other side. That parking lot is very often full, and you have several vacant stores right now. This traffic pattern is terrible. You have a school, if you recall where Les Maisons was. You have a school directly north of Les Maisons, a grammar school. You have Highland Park High School down St. John. You have another school down Elm. You have a new Albion building on Green Bay and one on Elm. You have so much more traffic now than ever was there when there was a car wash before. This is an accident waiting to happen. It's also an accident waiting to happen because you have train tracks nearby. And as we all know, there is no stop sign, nor should there be, heading west on Elm, which means that if somebody happens to turn the wrong way out of the parking lot or happens to, for some reason, stop, you very well could end up with somebody on those railroad tracks. Again, I find it terrible as far as safety goes. You have a lot of residential traffic now that wasn't there before. You have new condo buildings being built east of St. John, east of First Avenue. Again, as I said, you have the Albion, the two Albions, you have kids in school. You also have a car wash that is less than 3 blocks away at 598 Laurel called Wash Savi, which I must say is inside a building open from 9 to 5, closed on Sundays. I don't know if this proposal has these things open from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. for this car wash, but to me, that's ridiculous. You have so much residential property there. You have so much traffic. You have so much foot traffic. So many people walking into town, and that is the beauty of Highland Park, is you can walk everywhere. And that is what sold me and all my neighbors. We knew if we lived here, we could walk into town, walk to Sunda, walk to Walgreens, walk to UPS, and we are not alone. If in fact there's going to be outside vacuums, kiosks, and whatnot, you're adding to the sound, to the noises. The lighting's going to add. It's a total distraction. And again, I've looked at these, and to me, these are on major thoroughfares. First is not a major thoroughfare. The lighting is going to be distracting. It's bordering a residential area. It allows they might have up to 37 cars. I think this whole thing, frankly, is a ridiculous use of this property. And if I might say so, we have the lot, which is now where people are going on weekends to have food and see entertainment. And that's in an old parking lot. I would suggest that if this isn't going to work, that they just put a parking lot for Highland Park here. But would not have the kind of traffic. To have up to 70 cars coming out, turning right when there's another entrance and exit and a UPS, children walking, adults walking, people with walkers, all the car traffic, all the new buildings. I just think it's a terrible thing, and this is not what I think Highland Park is all about.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak? All right. Okay. So, yes, Kirch?
Would love that we continue this public hearing to,
Well, let's, one second. You all understand what we're looking for when you come back? Yes, thank you. Carl, what is the next reasonable available date?
Yes, it happens to be that the next meeting, instead of the usual 2 weeks, is actually 3 weeks away. Well, not counting the special meeting.
Right.
1 week from today.
We know that.
The next regular meeting is 3 weeks from today, Tuesday, September 5th.
Do you think you can, and when do you need the amended packet by?
We would work with the applicant to try to make that date work to the extent it works for them.
Do you think you can be prepared by September 5th?
Sure.
Okay. Just for the record, they said yes. All right.
in which case,
so I'm looking
that's
for
my
a motion to continue this till September 5th, which I believe
So moved.
Mr. Kirsch moved by,
I was getting there, yeah.
by Commissioner Kirsch, seconded by?
Second.
Second by Vice Chair Moore. No discussion, so all in favor, this is a voice vote, right?
Right.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this matter, yes,
Mr. Chairman, please.
yes,
Finish
Mr.
what you were gonna
Fontaine?
say this matter is continued to the,
Yes, this matter is continued now till September 5th, and notice is actual, there'll be no additional notice on this matter.
and it'll be in City Hall.
We believe it will be in City Hall, yes.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to stack something else
Correct.
that is,
It will be in City Hall at 7 PM. Mr. Chairman, I just want to make clear, I heard
Yep.
two commissioners, yourself and Commissioner Kirsch. Would you like Civil Tech present, our third-party civil engineer, or would you like us to put questions that you had
if you
to
would
them?
put questions about, the internal circulation and the conflicts that have been brought up, as well as the concern about the driveway locations and the number of driveways,
Okay,
specifically, I would appreciate that, and if, assuming that the report comes back with enough information, then they don't have to be here, but if we still have questions, I would urge after the packet comes up, I mean, I'd ask them to hold that date in case when we see the packet, we still have questions for them, right? But I would urge you, if, after you see the packet, when it comes out, send Carl an email with the questions.
Right, look at it right away.
Look at it right away, and if we have questions on whatever civil tech and their traffic engineer work out, put them up in writing so that, they can either come with answers or they can appear.
Okay, thank you for that.
I think.
Commissioner Heck thinks they should just be here.
that just as a kind of a.
Yeah,
council
probably it's gonna be
comment,
easier.
I think if we're all trying to communicate, and we may have an open meetings act issue.
Yeah,
To do
that's a
that,
good
I think
point.
we just
Commissioners
have.
can pose questions to Carl, but directly to Carl.
Yeah, it can't come to
Not
us.
email the whole
Yeah.
commission. Correct.
Have them come.
Have them, yeah.
Okay, we'll have.
Just easier, and we don't have
It'd
to.
be nice to meet.
Well, you're gonna meet them again next week, I have a hunch. Just have that strange feeling that they're gonna be here at next week's meeting. That would be good. All right,
We will do our best. I don't know their availability, but we will certainly
Please,
request that
we'll-
they do,
we'll
and
talk about
we'll
that
put those
later,
questions,
right?
Yeah. Yep.
all right. Any administrative design reviews? Gentlemen, thank you.
Not that I recall.
Okay. Our next meeting is a special meeting. It is August 22nd, 2023, as I mentioned at the beginning of this meeting. That meeting will be taking place at the Highland Park Country Club at 7 PM. The only issue on that agenda is the redevelopment of what's known as the Solo Cup property. So that's the only thing we will be talking
A
about.
pre-app, or is that?
No, it is a
application?
full request, right? It's public hearing,
It's a public hearing for a preliminary approval.
right?
Chair, if
Yes.
I want to emphasize what you just said. You said that that is the only thing we will be talking about, and that is proper at a special meeting.
Right.
Only agenda items can be talked about.
Right, and that is the only item, as far as I know, on the agenda that night. Correct?
Can I ask a question? Why is it at the country club?
Because we're going to have,
We're
we're expecting a lot of friends to come. And
It's gonna be.
they will be more than what this space can hold.
And
Right.
under Open Meetings Act, we need to accommodate.
Yeah, we have to accommodate them all.
Okay.
My entire neighborhood is coming.
I guarantee you, we're going to have a cast of thousands. I have asked the staff, and I think they have worked it out with the country club, that there is a stage basically for us to sit on so we can see the audience as opposed to being on the same level as the audience. Because I think that's going to be necessary to run the meeting properly, right? And I believe, Carl, you've made that arrangement from what I recall?
Well,
Or at least made that request?
The request has been made, and I'll know more in a few more days.
They
Okay.
do that for the,
They do that for
women
the.
voters.
Yeah, for the,
Because
they have.
the
one.
debates we haven't raised.
They've
It's a
had
raised
it.
date.
So just, just,
Yeah, I did request.
Requests have been made,
Right.
confirmation.
please reiterate that if you don't mind. Our next regularly scheduled meeting is September 5th, 2023, as was previously mentioned, at 7 o'clock in City Hall. And what's on the agenda that night besides the
Yes,
continuation of
this item will be
Waterway?
continued. We'll have a parking lot application for 700 Park Avenue West, and then the adjacent property, which is Park District property.
That's going to be a popular item too, apparently, because there's stuff on social media about that.
And then, off the top of my memory, there will be perhaps 2 or 3 zoning text amendments.
We're not going to be here all night, are we? Okay, great. Case briefing for the last 2 months, Mr. Fontaine, anything that we need to know about? Because city council met just a few times more than we did in the last 2 months.
Well, we haven't met in August yet. So
Right.
it's July. And,
So you've had one meeting.
one meeting, and I apologize, Mr. Chair, I did not, I do have a case briefing for you on that. And I thought I had indicated this to the commissioner, right, but perhaps not. The zoning matter related to tobacco shops that passed city council and was adopted. So the areas that the recommendation that the commission had with regard to B3 and I, and that those, the more narrow scope item. Council also directed Corp Council to look into other matters related to particular regulation of products.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
that's
Right.
to come next, not to this commission, but to the council.
Right. Any other business from the public? No, you had your hand up.
I just, I throw this in the case briefing just because it was one of the, I think it was one of the first votes I took for the Ravinia Fire Station. If you guys
Yeah, oh, yeah.
didn't make the open house for that project
Thank you.
was amazing. It's gorgeous function. I can't honestly believe how well that was done to still fit into the neighborhood the way it does and give those firefighters, the modern
They're real
technology. So
happy.
I didn't, you guys, there's somebody else did almost all the work on that, but it was, that's how this commission should operate when we get a result like that. It was just,
Well, I think that the architect and the city staff deserve a lot of credit for the outcome of that. And certainly, Joel, please express that to your colleagues.
The team effort, and the project was led by Chief Schragi, and did a great job at managing the project from a customer perspective, or the
Yeah.
person who helped work on the design with his staff, and of course, community development with inspections and plan review and all that. It all came together pretty well, and I'm glad that you enjoyed it. It's quite a thing to be proud of, quite an investment in the community, long-term investment, clearly. I mean, the old fire station was there for, 100 years?
Long time. This hopefully will be there this long.
That's good. It's certainly vastly improved facilities for the fire department, and that's really important, and I think everybody's happy with it.
Thanks to city council for investing in that as well. All right, anything else? I'll take a motion to adjourn then.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Heck, second by Vice Chair Moore. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
So we plan to get there early next week.